everybody. It's so great to see all of you today. It's my first time up on stage today, so you'll be seeing a lot of me this afternoon. Paula, Janette, thank you so much for joining me. All right, so United States, Canada. How are we all feeling? Oh. I love it. I love it. I was going to ask if we needed to hug it out, you know? I really was. Okay, so now that we've got that all settled, on to AI. All right, so what is the most, you both have been tasked with leading the AI, initiatives at your DMOs. This is for both of you. Janette, let's start with you. What is the most exciting or unexpected thing that you have had come out of AI in the last, 2-3 years?
Oh, the most exciting thing in AI in the last.
Is this? Oh, there we
go.
Here we
Okay.
go. I don't know about the last couple. You know what? Deep research. I think the deep research function that started in Google's Gemini, but is also available in OpenAI.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing what that is able to do when it is spending 30 minutes thinking about questions like, explain the media landscape in the UK and how's that shifted over the last 12 months in terms of broadside and glossy travel promotion.
Yeah.
Or looking at, the United States as we move to create a brand in meeting planning. Like, what does the competitive landscape look like? What are other countries doing? What is their messaging? What's their USP? And to get all of that in a clean report is a gift.
And so how often do you use it?
I got the $200 a month subscription so that I could use it multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Constantly.
What about you?
I think, I would agree. I don't think I'm on. Is this working? Okay, thank you. I would agree with that. I also think, we've spent a lot of time in, the opportunity to personalize at scale. Now, as we move forward, we're looking at really adding context to that, a contextual awareness to that personalization, which I think has been really exciting for us in terms of how we get people to move throughout the destination, discover deeper, see more, do more. And it's an area that we're developing right now and is pretty exciting for us.
So we just heard a lot about using AI in your internal functions at companies and organizations. I'm curious how you all are using AI internally, like at Destination Toronto. Sorry, how is it showing up day to day for your folks?
Day to day, I would say it's still very much in the productivity sort of in that area. A lot on brainstorming, content development, sort of synthesizing ideas, also on creative development. So we have an internal creative team that largely supports a sales team. So they've gotten really good at getting to first drafts really quickly. That's traditionally something that they spend a lot of time on. It's enabled better relationships between sales and marketing, that alignment is always a tricky one. So they're able to further develop ideas, I think, that enable better discussions with them. But I would say it's more so on the productivity side of things. Our roadmap includes more on the business intelligence side of things. We haven't overlaid any sort of AI on our business intelligence, but that really is a goal for us to enable our teams to get better at working with the data that we have available to us.
What about a Brand USA?
Yeah, we really have an approach of start small, think small in order to think big. So the entire company needs to understand how AI works and how we can use it in order to come up with the really big ideas that if you look at the last presenters, and they're laying out, here are all of the steps to do it, develop something with AI at your organization. Well, that's going to be to build a big idea. And if you are never even using ChatGPT, then you're not going to know what kind of big ideas might or might not work with AI. Yeah. So it's very much, we're moving now from the individual productivity to let's look at a department. And we're going to start with HR. What are the roles and just the broad objectives of that team? Because you have recruiting and you have managing, your retirement and your healthcare, like things that are kind of unrelated but under that bucket.
Yeah.
And let's find the quick wins in each one of those categories. And then let's get all three of the HR team really comfortable in making custom GPTs and bringing that to life. And then we will move on to the next department.
Has there been any, I don't know, pushback? Like, have there been internal struggles, internal politics that is getting in the way? Like, do some of your staff just be like, no, I don't want to use it?
Thankfully, no. That would have been a hard thing to walk into.
Yeah.
But there are people who are a little nervous about breaking the rules.
Right.
And so people who are like, oh, I'd really like to use AI for this particular task, but I don't know if I'm allowed to put this piece of information into it, so I'm just not using it at all for anything. And I think we forget, like, there's risk in not doing things as well.
Yeah.
So working to, like, add language in contracts so that people feel really comfortable that, like, great, we went through and we crossed the T's and we dotted the I's. You can use it now.
Yeah, so we were talking earlier about how, you two are both women in tech, women who have been asked to lead AI initiatives at your organizations and travel, and some of the blind spots, and we were talking about that specifically, that come up, and some of the opportunities that that are missed, especially by women who are either afraid to use AI or aren't comfortable. Talk a little bit more about what you both have seen in that regard.
I was just going to say that I read Harvard Business Review did a meta study of this a few months ago. And so they were looking at adoption across, 200 different studies. Adoption of AI by men versus women. And across the board, women were lagging just in basic using AI by up to 20 percentage points. So there's no reason for that. Like, it's 2025. We shouldn't be lagging on anything. And so the studies pointed to issues like good girl syndrome. Like, I'm a little bit, my husband tells me, of a Monica, right? Like, you want to do things right and correctly, and you don't want to get in trouble, and you don't want to cheat. You don't want to take a shortcut that hasn't been approved. And and you want to get training on it. And so some women may be kind of holding back a little bit, waiting for all of those pieces to fall into place.
Yeah, I would say that I would agree. I think it's a lot of times I don't know if it's cheating or it feels like a shortcut or that I need to prove myself. And that is something, whether, I don't want to generalize for all women, but it's certainly something that we've seen in our team. And I think key to that is really emphasizing what those team members bring, right? It's the critical thinking, it's the decision making that informs the output. It's not necessarily the process that is a manual process that can be done differently. That's not what I value in you as a team member, right? It's what you bring that informs that output. That's a higher level of thinking, and I think that's really important to make sure that team members understand that and then can let go to really be more curious in what they're doing.
Yeah, I was speaking to a group a couple of months ago where someone says, well, we were talking about RFPs. They said, well, if someone's using AI to write the RFP and then I'm using AI to judge the RFP, what's left for me to do? And I'm like, well, what's the RFP for? Like, you'll spend more time actually bringing to life the thing that you were looking at proposals about.
Yeah.
Like, so we have to center what we consider to be work and the most important part of our jobs.
All right, so how many, a show of hands, nobody look at your neighbor, just anonymously, how many of you have ever thought using ChatGPT in your work is cheating? All right. Is it ever cheating? If you can get the result you want, is it ever cheating? Yeah, I heard over there, it's smart. What else? You spell check, yep. I've heard computer from somebody out in my staff, or a calculator. Just the other day, it's like using a calculator. Anybody else? Yep.
It's like basically having more resources.
Yep, there we go.
Personal assistant.
Personal assistant, very good.
Yeah. If you're paying a lawyer for something, do you want to pay for 7 hours of time for them to do a task that might have taken 7 minutes? No, thank you. Why would it be different for us and our jobs? And we work for nonprofits. like we have a responsibility to like be stewards of this money. And I think part of that is to do work in the most efficient way that we can, or certainly not to take more time than needed to do something.
Yeah, and I think from a team perspective, that's where you draw greater engagement. This is the more interesting work that you're a part of, right? And I think that's the key, right? If things can be done manually, calculate, or whatever, participate where you can really add value.
All right, so I've seen a couple of questions pop up. Thank you. I forgot to mention that at the top. If you have questions, please put them in the app, and I will get to them here in just a minute. All right, one sentence. What AI tool will most transform destination marketing? Let's just say over the next year, for example. What do you think?
I think model context protocol is going to end up being a really big deal.
Please tell the audience, what is model context protocol?
Oh,
let's see how you're moderator.
I like to say that I'm a theater major rather than a tech person. So we get to the areas where I'm like, I feel a little over my skis. But model context protocol, where's Gray Lowry? He explained this in a really beautiful way last night, Gray with Miles Partnership, that it's just like it's using an API, except it's just telling the AI, if you are plugging into this database using this AI connection, this is how it works. So instead of your coders writing specific code to meet each one of those API endpoints, it just says, hey, this is what you do to get to those endpoints. And it's an instant shortcut. And so it means all of these databases of information, if you are worried that your instance of ChatGPT is hallucinating, you don't want to trust that, there will be these, MCP will allow you to plug into larger databases that will provide the facts behind what you are doing in AI.
What about you, Paula?
I think, I'm just going to build on that because I think that's one of the challenges that we've had is the interconnectivity of our systems. And for us, that means we're stepping back and taking a look at looking at the ecosystem holistically, because if we can leverage AI, it really means a system connection that for most DMOs is a process. It's not necessarily a flip the switch. We aren't set up that way necessarily. So I agree on the connectivity of the system, I think is a challenge that we're currently trying to solve.
So one of the questions from the audience here, how has AI changed how you do marketing specifically? What's been the biggest unlock for you? To either of you.
I think, I want to say it's, one of the things that we're doing is, so we're taking a look at, I think from a marketing perspective, we've always felt like we had this role in inspiration, information. We built our websites that were meant to do both, and we measured ourselves based on website visits. It's basically that's been the traditional model. For us now, we're looking at, as we look at redeveloping website, 5 years ago, we went through this process, and it was completely different at that time, but we're looking at what is the role of our website? Is it meant to address the questions, and where does inspiration then live? And I think it lives off the website, right? It lives in social and influencers and all the other ways that people are really beginning to understand destinations and putting those destinations on their consideration list. So for us, I think one of the sort of areas that we're exploring now is how to work with AI to help to identify what's bubbling up in terms of topics or trends that we can then, where our destination naturally can attach itself to, and how do we inject into those types of conversations? So how do we become a part of what is already capturing attention versus driving some traditional website traffic driving campaigns? So it's flipped it on its head for us.
What about you, Janette?
I would say, like, back when I was at New York City Tourism, I found that AI helped me to be more complete if I was doing something like putting together a marketing brief. So, you can write a brief that says, oh, the target audience for this is anybody who lives further than 50 miles from New York City. Because yes, that's how we're measuring our success. But it's not very helpful for your creative team. And so, I was putting together New York City's campaign for America 250 called Founded by NYC. I was able to spend a lot of time like with Notebook LM, which is a free Google tool that allows you to ask questions of research papers. Like, help me understand what is a driver for somebody to visit a destination, you know, for specifically for heritage tourism versus, okay, well, it's nice if there's some fireworks and stuff while I'm there. Like, but I'm going to come for the culture for another reason. And being able to connect those dots. We would have done a campaign about America 250, but I would not have spent as much like thoughtful time on exactly what did we want to accomplish.
Another question from the audience is actually about the environment and climate change. It's kind of a tough one, knowing what we know about the use of energy and electricity and how that can impact climate change. How does that make you think about AI and natural resources? Is it a concern? Do you guys ever talk about sustainability in connection to artificial intelligence?
We do, and I don't know that I have a great answer on this either. I do find that this is one of the challenges that we receive when you're trying to encourage usage. It's sort of one of the blockers that will be put up by team members who feel very strongly about this. Although I know it can't be an either or, but it's how do you participate in a way that aligns to what you believe is right in those values there. So I don't think I have a great answer for that.
Neil from Philadelphia has a great answer for that. Neil, what is the name of like your mantra when it comes to AI and sustainability?
Yeah, we've been talking about the concept of thoughtful restraint. I did not write that question, by the way. But Janette and I have been talking a lot about this thought of thoughtful restraint and knowing that there are negative impacts in using AI technology on the environment. And if we are in travel and tourism, right, the most important thing that we have is our destinations. So we need to find balance and make sure that they are sustainable and that we have places to visit. So the way that I've been thinking about it is it's just like when you were little and your parents said, like, just shut off the light when you leave the room or turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth. Like, we encourage you to use all the water and all the electricity that you need. And, you know, our belief is that we should use AI to its fullest. We just shouldn't waste it. And so this thought of thoughtful restraint is something, thank you so much. The thought of thoughtful restraint is something that we're trying to bring to our category to define what that is and then scale that to other categories.
Yeah, I mean, because the people in your office who are hand-wringing about this a little bit, do they do the same thing when they watch Netflix or
Exactly.
play
Are you spending? I think
Xbox?
you're spending half an hour doom scrolling would be the equivalent of whatever. Yeah, I agree.
Our individual use is a drop in the proverbial bucket compared to like larger corporate use cases. And so I tend to tell people, focus on learning everything you can about AI, which is going to include using it a lot. Because then when you are building something larger, you understand what it means to use a cheaper model, right? To use the lightest model that will still accomplish the task that you are looking to do.
No kidding. I have stopped asking please and thank you. I have stopped saying it for that reason.
Very efficient.
After I heard, I don't know, was it Sam Altman say it costs them like $1 gazillion? Yeah. All right. Is there any reason that a destination might rightfully reject the use of AI? Like, is there anything we're like, no, you just shouldn't do it in this instance?
Today, I would say it's AI-generated images of destinations. Like for us, that is a very hard line. I imagine that line will shift as public perception of these images shifts. You know, 25 years ago, were people wringing their hands over, oh, the sky, you use Photoshop to make the sky more blue in your brochure. Like, we now would think it's weird if somebody didn't do that. So does it make a difference if it's AI making the sky a little more blue? You know, for us, yes, right now. Will it make a difference in a few years? You're editing video and, oh, there's a kid who didn't sign your video release, so use AI to delete the kid. You know, it all comes down to what's your policy internally and what do you agree as a community that you're going to do and not do when it comes to that kind of thing so we don't mislead the public.
And I would say ours is the same. It's
Yeah.
image-based. I think this doesn't apply necessarily to Destination Toronto, but I know other DMOs have challenges with being membership based. So how do you create recommendations that are prioritize members over other attractions, venues, restaurants, things like that? That doesn't apply to us. Our editorial philosophy has always been to represent the entirety of the destination, to reflect the destination. So, but I know it for others, it certainly has been a bit of a blocker.
Do you think creativity is being vanquished by AI?
I've never felt more creative in my whole life. I'm like, whatever random idea is living in my head and I can't even articulate it, AI will help me articulate it and then help me do it. I vibe coded an app to like make an appointment with me at IPW to learn about AI. I'm so thrilled that I can make an app now. I couldn't have done that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I agree. It's been super empowering, right? And I think even, from our team perspective, from designers to more creative-minded, it's just unlocked. It's gotten rid of some of the more manual type of mundane tasks and really allowed them to elevate their thinking and to have the time and opportunity to do more. So I find them more engaged in that respect.
So what advice do you have to other either destination marketers, if you have, folks in the room who are thinking like, how can I apply these learnings to them? What would your advice to folks be about how to utilize AI in the travel space and how to do it responsibly, how to do it well, how to really exceed in their, individual job or role?
I think for us, it started with a clear idea of, or a clear understanding of what our philosophy was. So it has always been about leveraging AI to improve our business outcomes. So it's always been focused on what problem are we trying to solve, what are we trying to accomplish, and then how do we leverage AI to get us to that goal. We've set very clear guidelines for our team members so that they can then be empowered to use these tools and resources. And I think that's been really important. Also to model some of that behavior, so sharing some of your own learnings and fostering that sense of curiosity, which is just a different way of learning, and it's not necessarily comfortable for everyone. So I think that's important that leadership also models that behavior.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you have to show your own discomfort and that, like, we're all on the journey together, and some people are a few steps further along than the rest of us. But when I try to be very open about, like, all of the flaws and failures and things that don't work so that people don't feel upset when their AI thing doesn't work. Like, we have a very simple custom GPT that we use that has our expense policy uploaded into it. And it's very complicated. So every time you do an expense report, you have to look at this PDF 100 times. So now you don't. Now you just ask the custom GPT. Except it broke, and then I had to troubleshoot something that was a very simple prompt and just like look at this 40-page PDF and pull back the answer. And when it breaks, you're like, well, shoot. Now what do I tell the team? Yeah. But then I did a deep research report. I'm like, okay, here's some, examples, screenshots of the errors. Why would this have happened? Oh, it's because it was about Chicago. What tier city is Chicago? And it hallucinated that Chicago, it wasn't listed, but it's like, well, it must be a more expensive city because we know Chicago's an expensive city.
Yeah.
And so I used ChatGPT to rewrite the prompt so it was much stricter in what information came through. And then I wrote about it on LinkedIn. And then I walked through on our AI Slack channel every single step that I took so that people know, sometimes it will hallucinate. It's a feature, not a bug. That's okay. We just figure out why it happened and redo it and move on. And people need that confidence boost.
Yeah. So if we were just bring out the crystal ball. If we're sitting here again next year, like we're talking about agentic AI a lot today at this conference, this summit, what do you think the big thing we'll be talking about a year from now? Because everything's moving so fast. Like, take a guess. What's the thing that's just a little bit out there that surely will be figured out by then, by 2026.
I have to go back to MCP. I think I am a really bullish on personal AI. I really think that we are going to be not necessarily using every random chat bot that you come across, but the one that already knows everything about you, that you've been pumping all of your information into. It's going to need access to other tools in order to book travel for you. And I think we will start to see that in a year.
So the chatbots that basically don't suck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would totally agree with that. I was going to go with more deeper on the personalization side of things.
Well, great. Well, Paula, Janette, this has been fascinating. Thank you so much for being here. Let's go. Thanks.